I've been doing quite a bit of writing on the NFT market. I guess the way I see the market is just because you get inbuilt scarcity in a lot of projects and how they're formed. You typically, a lot of collections are either a limited edition of 5,000 or 10,000 prints. If the market catches a wave, you very, very quickly end up with far fewer pieces available than people want to buy, right? So it's the big thing to bear in mind with NFT buying, I guess, is A, they're either worthless, or B, a lot of money. And it's kind of one of those sort of, which means it's quite like a venture capital market in the way you should think about playing it, although that it's liquid and you can trade it. But the way I normally try to look at the market is by just buying into various different collections and building up different positions, and typically looking to buy 2 to 3 of a particular collection relatively early in its life cycle. And then you can, the ideal is you can sell at least one to recover what you've invested and then recycle the capital. So that's kind of at the way I've been thinking about the market, and it can work really well when you, and then if you think about it from like a venture capital style dynamic, if you have a portfolio of 10 to 12 projects in VC or even more, that it's the 100x thing that makes most of your returns. So the key is to be relatively widely spread into various different projects and start thinking about them, and obviously and almost be willing to write off quite a big position. And then the other dynamic that's quite interesting is, like, I guess you should be thinking, I tend to think of like an NFT collection like a token, right? So they're distinct, each individual one, but the way I think about it is almost like, if you're allocating $2,000 to each token portfolio or something that you think is worth monitoring and worth your time. And that can be quite hard in the NFT market, because you putting $2,000 into something that is 0.05 ETH is just quite boring, really, to get the position. But it kind of, from my way of thinking, it's like, it's only really worth the time of monitoring something if it's similar to the size of portfolio, kind of thing. But anyway, I hope that's a helpful sort of dive into how I'm thinking about the market. The other thing that I've been talking about quite a lot is we think there's going to be quite an asymmetric nature to the industry. And so, like, there's going to be collections which have historic importance. So we were talking with one of the other guests who will speak on the Damien Hirst collection, right? And I think it's, from my point of view, that was a very, very good one to buy, because it was the first majorly famous, a very famous artist in the real world, or in the traditional art world, who came up with a very good idea as an experimentation of attaching the NFTs to physical markets. So essentially, the way the currency works is you can opt between, at some point, buyers are going to need to either opt for the digitally scarce version of the NFT or the artist authenticated real world object, which is going to get really interesting, because I think there's going to be a lot of last time I looked, there were only 2,000 Hearst trading on OpenSea, although they have another market called Henny, where there is which is on its own Palm blockchain, or so there's two separate markets. But I think you can expect that a lot of the buyers on the Henny Palm element are probably going to be thinking about moving to physical. So what will happen is a lot of typical NFT collections are 5,000 or 10,000 pieces. If the Hearsts remain on the digital side at 2,000 pieces, you'll suddenly have a liquid market with scarce supply, owned by probably one of the most famous, or the most famous living artist today, right? Which has also been the first experiment in NFT land. But thinking about the broader sense is like the way the bigger collections you're seeing is almost suddenly like the CryptoPunks and the Bored Ape Yacht Club and various of these groups, and we can probably begin screen sharing and having a look at some of the individual collections. I can show you sort of what I've been looking at on Nansen and how I've been looking at the data that side, while the Novum team is kind of building our own tools to track OpenSea. The way I like to think about it, and one of the reasons why I was interested in World of Women, for instance, and I still think it's probably quite a good buy, even though its floor price is like 2.4 ETH, so it's still pretty pricey. But the thing I think about that project is the crypto space is very male dominated. And so you would think that a lot of people would want a female style avatar. And then I guess the other element of the NFT space is, at the moment, we've seen the likes of Beeple and Hearst and name artists do really well. And then you've seen other artists do build up collections and followings and that kind of thing. I think at the moment, a lot of the traditional artist collections and curation is tricky to play, because I think a lot of people in the crypto space have gravitated on to sort of something you can use as your Twitter and Discord avatar to signal that you're a participant in the new digital economy and that kind of thing. And I think that trend will at some point die out of favor, right? So it's quite a risky market, but it's clearly the most hot market there right now. But yeah, and the other thing I'd say is it really is it is a dangerous market, I'd say, the NFT market. So the way I'm also trying to think about it is trying to realize profits and what has been put in more. Like, it'd be really nice to be sitting on double the Ethereum that we've all put in to the NFT market, just in case it does go pop at some point. And it's growing so fast that if you get the collections right, you can make a 5 times, a 3 times return in a very short period of time, right?
Yeah, so I think for me, so there's 2 things that I think are important. First, because I really did not look in this space much at all, is try to understand what are the platforms that we need to look at and how to find the new projects that are out there. And then the second part is, as you were mentioning before, trying to understand the trends. So what I've noticed is you have like all of these, as you said, pixelated profiles that have been doing quite well. Is this a trend that is going to continue? Should we invest in new collection with pixelated profile, or do you think that the trend is gone? And if this trend is over, what is the next trend? You were talking about the gaming. Where can we find these projects and access them?
Yeah, no, really, really good question. I'm a big bull on the avatar trend, right? Like I think that the crypto punk thing, or the BAYC Bored Ape Yacht Club sort of image, and they now, last week, the Bored Apes came out with a serum where you convert your BAYC into a mutant ape. So effectively, you might have seen images on the internet, and I think what you've got to remember is a lot of these. Someone did a really, really good Twitter analysis on how the market cap of BAYC, CryptoPunks, and CryptoKitties combined was about $4 billion, right? Which is intriguing, because these collections are like limited to 5,000 of a specific group, and each, typically, sometimes 10,000. The interesting thing there is like Visa bought a CryptoPunk because it's probably still like it's one of the oldest NFT projects. It's 4 years old, and it's kind of sort of how you signal you're down with the kids, right? So Visa kind of almost broke the internet when they did that, and I think it was an immensely smart move on their part, because for 150K, they could signal that they were interested in these kind of things. But I think once something has achieved that kind of level of notoriety and fame, it becomes like a historical object, right? And whatever happens, I think Ethereum V1 will be a constituent in the market for a long, long time to come, right? Like it might end up being overtaken by Solana or one of the other protocols, but where the CryptoPunks as an iconic historical artifact are, they will be there. And then I think for this current, I guess, NFT summer, the Bored Ape Yacht Club almost certainly is like the next avatar for the next kind of thing. And if you look at the founders of many of the next successful derivative projects, you probably see an ape at the back of it. So there's a kind of nexus. And then what those NFTs are providing a kind of privileged access, membership rights. The way to think about it is almost like a scarce Soho House membership or something like that, right? Because sometimes, and Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, with his VFriends, has even been like attaching lots of series of rights to all his different kind of products, right? So once like the mainstream corporates and things hatch onto that trend, if people don't get just exhausted, there could be a backlash, right? Like, but I think the reality is, as we were talking about that Twitter analysis of the market cap of BAYC, CryptoPunks, and CryptoKitties at 4 billion combined, that was smaller than Shiba Inu tokens market cap at its peak, which I think was $12 billion, right? So I think as far as, and I think the NFT trend is more here to stay, right? Because you only need 5,000 people, and then the next 5,000 believing those 5,000 have the same amount of value for that value to maintain, right? It's kind of like the value of a house in the Hamptons. Like, not many people here maybe want to live in the Hamptons, but if one of us does, they would still be willing to pay the 5 million for the house in the Hamptons kind of thing.
So something that I found quite interesting, because in the end, a lot of what's great about crypto is that it allows you to fractionalize and give you access with a minimum amount of money to like a token or to an asset or whatsoever. And that now with NFTs, it's sort of the opposite, because these prices become so inflated and a lot of people are cut out of the market. I think I saw in the news, fractionalizing the Doge NFT punk. The Doge NFT and the CryptoPunk 543. So they were chopped into $1 shares, which I think this is what brought prices back up yesterday. So I think this is something maybe also we should look at, because to be honest, I'm not a big fan of putting, I don't know, 100K into a CryptoPunk. I want to participate in the trend, but 100K into a CryptoPunk is something I'm really not comfortable about. So maybe looking at, let me give you the name of the platform, guys.
So I normally use NFTX, but we can look at NFT20 as well, right? So you can buy, this is very interesting, right? Because like very, very quickly, it's a decentralized market, and I'm sure NFT20 works in a similar way. And you can literally buy a fractionalized CryptoPunk, right? So you can go onto SushiSwap, or that's the June analytics of it, and buy part of a CryptoPunk. And if you want to, I've been considering this just because it's silly, but like you can dollar cost averaging gradually and accumulate 1.505 punk token. And then you can literally buy the CryptoPunk that you want from the NFTX thing. So you can kind of you can defray market risk over a period of weeks and accumulate to buy your CryptoPunk, or your, if you so choose.
What's the liquidity on these fractionalized NFT? Because I would do the opposite. I would like buy, I don't know, 0.02 Ether of each one, because their prices are not really correlated, right? So you buy 0.0 whatever,
which is exactly what you want to do. I think the liquidity will be fairly good, because there's on the punks, at least, because there's 100 punks here. And the way it works is you can buy into the liquidity. You can provide ETH for the liquidity pool if you want to get rewards. And so like the way I've been working on like projects where I've been building a position is I've also been putting in like a NFTX pool at the bottom, just to go look. And then people have because what it provides you is effectively a floor price, a guaranteed exit for people in NFTs, right? So what they can do is, if you have a floor CryptoPunk at any time, the floor on CryptoPunks is probably a bit higher than 87 ETH at the moment, but you can get that pretty much instantaneous liquidity into the punk token. And then there will be, like, there isn't even a floor price on the CryptoPunks at the moment, right? But you can see that the last sales were at 199 ETH. So you won't want to really use the liquidity pool, but if you're really desperate and need the funds, which I doubt many owners of punks are in that position, but if you are, you could trade it out on NFTX quite quickly, but at a discount to the market, right? And which gives the market an interesting characteristic as well, right? And what's pretty cool is it may be one of the cheaper areas to get hold of a floor piece for these kind of things as well. Because if you're paying a 1.05 premium to buy a CryptoPunk, then that's cheaper than most of the CryptoPunks that have been selling, right?
And out of curiosity, the floor, how do they set up the floor?
I'm not entirely sure how they calculate it. It seems that like they have a buy and a sell price. So effectively, if you're looking to sell, the spread is huge, right? So it's clearly very lucrative for the NFTX people, but it's interesting as a kind of cultural phenomenon kind of thing. So and you'd assume if the NFTX liquidity takes off, which I really suspect it will, because suddenly you've got a market around these things that you can trade, that the spread will narrow, right? So.
And they are the one who have bought them, basically. So they own all of these CryptoPunks, and they put them as a collateral, and then they're fractionalizing it, right? It's not me and you that can put our...
No. You can literally stake. The way it works is it's completely decentralized marketplace. You can stake any of one in your collection, right? And then that gives you, and you only want to stake one that's at the floor price, because you get given a generic, what they do is a generic value. So you need to be quite conscious of like the rarity of your product, and then look at where it goes from there.
Hi, Toby, this is Eric. Hi, everyone. Actually, what I was going to say, the thing that I thought was interesting about the Visa move was really the bank that helped them execute it and custody it. What was it? Anchorage? And I just thought that was quite an interesting move to watch for, somebody that invests in companies. Is that a move that there is a set of services which is helping institutions custody things like NFTs?
I do think that is really interesting as well, right? And the way we've been thinking about, because suddenly if you own a Damien Hirst, you want an easy way to store them. So like we've sort of set up kind of Gnosis multi-sig to look at that kind of thing. And then a lot of people are using ledgers and Trezors. But obviously, Eric, people will want to go a bit more institutional as well in how they're custodying these things, like with Anchorage.
And in their declarations, are they going to mark them to market then?
I would assume so, yeah. It's a traded asset that's moving around all the time. If you're Visa's corporate treasurer, why wouldn't you mark it to market, right? Like the Bitcoin holdings of Tesla or whatever, right?
They're not putting it in their treasury.
Oh, they're not putting it in their treasury. Where are they putting it, Amber?
I don't know. It's more like it's
intangible assets.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, but David can explain about where that would be accounted.
They'll do a post-audit, post-balance sheet note if it's declared to be a substantial part of any portfolio. It's more a fashion thing, I think. It's not really an investment on that scale. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but I don't see it as an investment move. It's just...
I think you're right. Their publicity is all about them getting into this market, understanding it better, and because they want to offer services to those people involved in it. And so that's correct position for them. It's probably a marketing department play, but nonetheless, being a company of the scale they are, it is interesting to see. I would love to have seen the submissions about how we're buying this asset and custodying it, or should we just write it all off because of the volatility?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because it's a market with a price. So it's probably easier to value than AIM stocks, right? Like it's got more liquidity than AIM stocks generally. Right?
I think as an interesting question is what does a run on a non-fungible market look like? It doesn't run very fast because it's non-fungible. If you have a run on Ether or Bitcoin, we all know what that looks like. We've been through them. But how do you have a run on something where everything's unique and they're non-fungible? I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah. Well, we can look at history, right? So if we go last year, so what happens is the volumes really dry up, right? So this is the June crypto crash, late May, June, when Bitcoin and Ethereum went down. And you can see just the volumes were tiny through May to June for the CryptoPunks, having got up pretty high in March, April, when we were in craze. And now look at the volumes, they're just going insane. So it's and this is the average price that we're seeing here as well, right?
So there's no contagion. It doesn't.
What happens is you just, it's like the housing market, right? Everything grinds to a halt. So effectively you have transaction volumes go down, but people are unwilling to recognize an illiquid asset that they own has gone massively down in value. So what you see is the floor price might come down a bit, but what actually happens is there's virtually no liquidity in the market, and you kind of put your your house there and nervously wait, similarly to the CryptoPunk, and then just sit and just, I guess what you do is just go away and don't think about it very much and then hope it sells at some point, right?
So it's sit it out basically. Yeah. So it won't have contagion or massive impact on the other liquidity. It just means people will sit it out because they're not willing to take the loss.
Yeah, what you'll see a lot of sort of Daily Mail articles of, I put all my life savings into CryptoPunks and Bored Ape Yacht Club things, and I now can't sell any of them or whatever. I think a lot of people are going to get burnt in this cycle. There's a lot of hype, but the good thing is I think it's a market with a huge amount of momentum behind it, and so I don't think the music is going to stop tomorrow, right? I suspect the music will stop in 6 to 9 months at some point, and by then, if you're being sensible and allocating your risk profile to the market and taking profits, then in theory you should have more Ethereum back than you already put in, and a portfolio. And if it keeps on going up forever, then great, right? But obviously, easier said than done in a hyped market.
Yeah, I just noticed something interesting, that total transactions in art in 2020 was $50 billion. So this is the art market, $50 billion. When you think that now NFTs are what, 2 billion?
No, more. Well, in terms of market cap, much more, right? So we were talking about the market cap of punks and BAYC and CryptoKitties at $4 billion, right? And there's many more projects. So like there's $3 billion, more than $3 billion was transacted on OpenSea alone, which is by far the biggest market. Yeah, I think the market must be bigger than $100 billion. So it's probably already overtaken the art market in some ways.
Yeah, so that's interesting. It can tell you two things, right? It can tell you either there's a big problem in the art market, which we all know. It's very illiquid. It's very hard to find pieces. You have the private auctions, the public auctions, etc. Or the NFT market is extremely overvalued. It's probably somewhere in between.
and I think you should think about the NFT market as a wider collection of rights, right? So it's got more utility than just a work of art, right? So that's the interesting thing about it, is the use cases and where those use cases end up going. What is real though is also the use cases of most NFTs at the moment are not much beyond a private Discord channel and access to the high resolution JPEG of a CryptoPunk or whatever it is, right? Yeah, so that is the multi-billion-dollar question, and it's going to be an interesting one. And Marianne, I don't know if you'd like to talk a bit about Blackpool, because obviously you're one of the more sophisticated groups in the NFT market and been doing this for a long while, so I would love to hear from you a bit. So, you've started Blackpool. Your colleagues include Julian, who's pretty well known in the market, Julian Butterloop. I'm always amazed, because I like to think I'm busy, and whenever I catch up with you and Julian, I feel like you're even busier. So Julian's done a name token. You've got Stake Capital, which is another traded token, and then Blackpool is your play on the NFT art market, and seems to have been doing really well, unsurprisingly, in the last couple of months, as a token that people can use to access the NFT market. But would love to hear firsthand, Marianne, how you're driving all that value.
So to talk a bit about Blackpool, it's a way to be exposed to the NFT market, but in a very simple way. And Blackpool is a quantitative hedge fund in real. It's not a real NFT project. It's a more large financial project. And why it's named quantitative hedge fund? It's because it's all based on mathematic metrics and games theory. We got a lot of very high talented economists and engineers in mathematics at the board, and we took position on NFTs market regarding of the momentum and on the metric. We aggregate metrics and statistics from real world and from crypto world. We are pretty convinced that there is not much value on just the NFT market. And like, first of all, we see NFT as a technology and not as a thing. It's just a way to like put rarity in an asset. It could be a token, it could be physical asset, it could be a full digital asset, it could be many things. So, and we prefer to take position on utilities NFTs. Utilities NFT is not just like a piece of art, like you can think about CryptoPunk, but if I can give you a very quick illustration, it's like if your CryptoPunk allow you, because you own it, to have access or to allow you to have something in the real world, or an access to a very limited features on another platform, etc. On Blackpool, it's so we took position on the art market, on the game market, like regarding Sorare card. We have the Mbappe super rare card, and we took position as well on the play to earn market. So we have like 3,000 axes when we are just earn money with scholarships. We are the second, and we are launching another project on Blackpool that will be a farm of axes. We will do like potentially an operation of reproduction with axes to earn some hits in a passive way. So like if you own Blackpool token, you are exposed to those verticals, and we plan to like go forward and to addition some other vertical, like physical assets, maybe why not some real estate, etc. So that's basically what how Blackpool is works. So, and you can, after that, you can stake your Blackpool tokens that will allow you to earn more NFTs on our platform. And it's a young project, so you just be patient, and we will like propose a lot of other features, because for us, the main thing to keep in mind is that it's not only a piece of art, it's a way to access to something else. So you just will find some utilities, additional utilities in our NFTs. And because NFT is just a technology, and you can use NFTs for financial goals, you can NFTs you can put an NFT on your future yield. I don't know if you know the project that's called AP Wine. It's a very massive project that project to tokenize your future yields. So it's really brilliant. So sorry for the long explanation, but I think it's important for me to just explain you how we see NFTs.
Yeah, amazing. And in our WhatsApp group, we'll share a link to APY and be able to update that. But Marianne, thank you very much for that. We can maybe do a tour of Toby's scouting in crypto land kind of thing. And I will show you just sort of how I kind of think about when I'm scouting a market, right? So obviously, like I'm sure a lot of you spend time looking through the stats ranking page on OpenSea, and you can see, like, at least getting aware in any market, right? You always need to be aware of like what's trending and why, right? So it's pretty interesting. Mutant 8 Yacht Club, because of this serum, suddenly did 64,921 worth of ETH volume, and they were created last week. So they rapidly jumped to the top of the charts, but obviously volume collapsed. Have a floor price of 5, 8.1K owners of 15.1K. And it's just an interesting market in that way. At the same time, in the last 7 days, what you find with the market as well is it's very, very it is very, it's a very quick market that is almost of the nature where when something you built a position in takes off, you probably want to start thinking about realizing some profits, because you won't get that opportunity to sell for a while, right? So if you look at Meebits, for example, which is another one of like the famous CryptoPunks collections, they went up 260% in volume in a week, but also down 56% in the last 24 hours, right? So their high moment lasts for about 3 to 4 days. And so the big thing to think about the NFT market is probably actually to, unless you're keen to spend all day glued to a screen, when you hear about something in a news article or something like that, treat it more like an interesting fact than something that you need to go and rush in and buy, because it's very likely that you're going to be the bag holder for someone else, right? So obviously, like there's a long-term play, right? So Meebits are quite an iconic group by the same people who did the CryptoPunks, quite recognizable. You've probably seen them in Twitter avatars, and can pay upwards of 5.5 ETH to own one. And obviously it's quite intriguing for a blocky character like that. But like I was saying before, I'd got really into the world of women just because I felt it had a lot of traction. So started buying up at like 0.8 ETH. And it was more of a kind of logical play, just because like I still think it will be very popular, just because the its floor price has come down quite a bit lately, so it's come down to 3 ETH. So even with this kind of collection, you want to be looking to realize any gains on that kind of thing. But it's interesting that from a floor price perspective, you can buy the lowest price World of Women for 2.5 ETH. Then probably the way I normally scout the market, the two tools I use a lot are rarity tools, which is a nice free tool, right? So you can go to World of Women and then go, well, what's your maximum price that you want to be paying? So because actually like the returns in the NFT market, you actually need to get to know each market quite well, right? So to really do well out of it, you want to begin thinking about what traits people are emulating. So this is like the World of Women world, and this is like quite a popular character because she's got bubble gum, she's got a tuxedo. So I think, and so essentially like there's an urban culture forming around them. And then this one's quite a popular one because it's got this so-called sort of night goddess thing. But if you're more, it is quite tricky sort of deploying 3 to 4 ETH on these kind of things, but I suspect they'll have some long-term value. And you can suddenly, like, the way I kind of think about it is buy 2, sell 1. And if 1 can recoup your profits, then you've got kind of a risk-free option. And I think as the market trend continues, that's likely to work. And so what you find is at under 3 ETH, this is the rarest, so it's number 3,346 rarity that you can buy, and then you can look at its traits, and all of its traits, they're not the most valued in the community, so it's only getting 2.7 max for the different traits. similarly, this is 2.98. But to a certain extent, these are setting the floor. So this is a pizza lover's earring, whatever, right? And you kind of need to begin pursuing in the different discords what they are. But then you can go, well, actually, I want to go more premium. I'm willing to pay 5 ETH. And then you can get one that's one of the 390th rare because it's got an emerald elven cape. So it is a bit weird, and it's understanding the different urban trends. I went in quite heavy into Satoshables, which are like these weird derivatives of Satoshi. This is very much a hugely like speculative area, right? Like you can pick them up for 0.2 ETH, you can get like loads of them, but they're all like derivatives of the face of Satoshi. So they may have very limited value, but they may have much more value. But what's interesting is if you go up higher, what they did as a collection is they had various ones with Bitcoin togas. So for your Bitcoin enthusiasts, you can signal your interest in Bitcoin. Although what you can find is, although that one is worth 1.5, you can get this is actually probably a very good buy, because I suspect, like, given the Bitcoin maxis out there, you can buy something with a Bitcoin toga that can be your unique avatar signaling your love of Bitcoin. But anyway, so the more about these things is you need to just really explore and get to know. So this is a Bitcoin glasses thing. And actually you can find one of those for 0.55 ETH, but depending on the traits, you can imagine some Bitcoiner might like to virtue signal their involvement in the Bitcoin industry by, this is kind of a playful look. And you'll find in other collections a lot of kind of laser eyes and those kind of things. But yeah, no, really excited about this market, and we're intending to double down on it in quite a big way on OpenSea. I think like the volumes of OpenSea overtook Uniswap, so it's just kind of in our playbook. I think you definitely want to retain your foot in DeFi and token land, because it's a much safer market than NFTs, but NFTs are producing eye-popping returns at the moment. So.